Someone said, "What's the future?" Vaughn Coleman.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And we are back. Another week has begun. I mean, technically it starts on Sunday, but a new month has begun. I've already done a Vaughn Coleman Presents, my first ever in-person Vaughn Coleman Presents this morning, which may be topical to, April 1st, all I'm hinting at. But this is a serious interview. It doesn't mean we can't have fun, but, it's more of a, what have you, like a fun interview, it's still a fun interview, you know what I mean. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, of course, before I bring on my guest, I always, I got to talk about myself and my work, and today is no different. So, with it being April 1st, that means we are now officially, we were last time before it got delayed, but we are in launch month, April 19th. So, by the end of this month, you will finally be able to pre-order or back or whatever you want to call it, because someone was telling me that it's a pre-order campaign, whatever you want to call it. Like, the book is mostly done. It'll be done in a timely manner, but point is, make sure if you're interested to back this book. It is something I've been working toward for a very long time. And so what is it about? Well, let me tell you. Phenomenova is set 20 years after World War III and follows the teenage son of a war hero who is struck by lightning while holding a mysterious crystal and finds himself awakening with lightning powers and super speed. It's, a love letter to everything I love about the superhero genre, and it is something really special. So he takes these powers and he decides he wants to become like the brave heroes that fought in the war. And so he sets out in a makeshift costume right here, and he decides to intervene at a heist at a nuclear reactor, but finds himself in way over his head fighting villains that are totally out of his league. So if that sounds interesting to you, it's 64 pages, and this beautiful art right here is going to be a trading card, an exclusive trading card, but you got to back it day one if you want this trading card. So make sure to join that mailing list. Keep up to date. We got some really cool art coming, a new cover coming soon by this same artist right here, my trading card artist, Julia Lenahan. So, or Jules. She goes by many names, but same person, same artist, and same kick-ass art. You're really going to like what's in store. More stuff coming your way. Read all about it. Go to RebelOasisStudios.com or, oh wait, I forgot to display. So make sure to go to RebelOasisStudios.com or just click the link in the chat or the link in my bio. It will get you there. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, enough about me. Let's bring in our guest, the man of the hour. Please welcome Tony James. How you doing, Tony?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming up.
Yeah, for sure. I think I saw your cover for with the Phenomenova. Is that the title of it? Yeah, I think I saw that on Facebook. I thought that cover was awesome. Like
thank you.
The way the lightning just jumps out of his hand like that.
Oh, thank you, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really no pun intended, but I thought it was something that happens in the story, but I thought it was more of a striking visual. Now he does look more confident on the cover. My artist and I had a back and forth on that. We decided that, the confident look on the cover when he's holding it kind of was more so what the story was kind of about. But when he gets struck in the story, you'll see the page. He's like he's like screaming out because, he's struck by lightning. But, and the colorist, my colorist is just, he's so good. He's so good. He's so easy to work with. And as of now, we have 43 pages penciled and inked, 26 colored. So, be on the lookout. But enough about me, okay? It's not about me all the time. Star Noir is on Indiegogo. But before we get into your book itself, let's talk about you. What do you got going on? Let's see. Like, I'd love to hear more about you, man, and what you're up to.
Okay, well, I'm Tony James. Been writing stories in some capacity my entire life since high school. I went to film school for a bit. I hated every moment of it. it was just not for me. I was just I would be on sets and I would just kind of look at everybody's position and didn't really feel that like I wanted to do any of those jobs. But I had a lifelong passion for comics. So when I was done with college, I decided to give comics a go. Yeah, the first comic I ever made was a cyberpunk comic called Reloader about a virtual reality bounty hunter, and it was actually the first time I was ever successful on Kickstarter with it.
Oh,
And
nice.
through the process of making that first book, which was it had a lot of like trials and tribulations because I was very new with working with artists. um, I learned a bunch of lessons during that time, and then I went away for a bit, wrote a bunch of stuff, and then came back with Star Noir, this book that I have now on the second book of.
So I do want to get into. Well, I'll ask about all that, and then we'll pull back a bit. But so
Go for it.
you've published work before. You're a published writer. Where did you did it through Kickstarter? You said.
Yeah, yeah, through Kickstarter. Yep.
And
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you do screenwriting then?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I learned a lot of screenwriting. I've read pretty much every writing book that you can think of multiple times. Yeah, so very very well versed in it.
That's awesome. So I have a question then, because I also majored in film. What drew you to comics from film?
I think it started as, you try to make a short film, and with a very shoestring budget, it's very difficult to make a film. And there's a lot of moving parts, with different crew members and actors and schedules and all that stuff, and not to mention the whole editing process.
Right.
And I just found that to be very, very exhausting.
Hmm.
And when I would gravitate towards comics, it seemed like the process was just quote unquote easier.
Right.
There was a few less moving parts. The financial barrier to entry was lower, and I have a huge passion for sequential storytelling. So I felt that everything that I learned from screenwriting, I thought some of those kind of core tenets that you learn, basically show don't tell, could really translate into the visual medium of comics.
Absolutely. I mean, I am a fan of, yeah, I was kind of on a similar path. I would always have all these big budget ideas that I would be told, knock it down a peg, knock it down a peg, knock it down a peg. And it was just kind of disheartening. And it's like, all right, here's what's going to happen, right? Is I'm going to work my ass off on jobs I hate, not writing what I want to, maybe on the side, uh, pitching it around to people, hoping someone takes a chance on me to maybe do a short budget and maybe possible. And then it's like you look at the percentile of people that get into that, and it's like ultimately you have to sell all your IPs. Um, you have to like I said, there's all those cogs in the machine. So your $1 million, multi-million-dollar idea is going to cost it. You can
Hmm.
have a bunch of multi-million-dollar ideas a month, or even if we're not publishing on a monthly basis, by issue,
Hmm.
and in the comic book realm. And I think it was like reading like long series runs and just seeing how, wow, they just really churned out idea after idea after idea. And I'm not saying comics are cheap. Once you start doing the budget calculations, you
Yeah.
learn they're not,
Yes.
but they are significantly cheaper. If you're doing like basically the comic equivalent of a micro short, then yeah, it could be comparable.
Hmm.
Um, but most people aren't doing that. And like you said, I think that the visual storytelling. It seems like you're a visual guy too. You're a writer, not an artist, right?
Yeah, I'm a writer. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a writer too, and it's like even though I have no artistic talent at all, I'm not even good with cinematography. It's like I see things in a visual way, and so and you kind of it's weird. It's like I don't know about you, but when I was going from screen, because I had the comic that I have now was like a screenplay first.
Hmm.
Um, there is, in my opinion at least, a bit of a learning curve
For sure.
because you
Yeah.
kind of realize that I don't know if it was beat into your head, but that like screenwriters they have the idea beat into your head that you will not direct this script or you got to write it as if you're not directing it, uh, which does help the flow of the process. But I found when I'm writing a comic that it's in some ways it could take longer, in some ways not, because you kind of have to be more specific with the paneling
Yeah.
because you can't just say, like, if I want to say this guy flips this guy around and punches him, right? You could say that in a screenplay, and that's it. In a
Hmm.
comic, you're like, well, how does that look? How many panels is that? How much of a page? How does that relate to time?
Hmm.
And so I think there's a lot of differences. And I don't know, is that how you felt?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when you have to throw away things like like wide shot and shot reverse shot, and you have to realize that there is one action per panel. So if you write a panel and it's two actions, it's gonna come out a little funky. So you have to, yeah, you have to really when you're blocking out a script, because what I do with my comic scripts, they start as like in a screenplay format because it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's trying to think of the panel layouts and the story itself is sort of like trying to like rub your belly and pat your head at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do the screenplay first so I can just focus just exclusively on the story, and then I go back and I actually block it. And I read the Scott McCloud books, the Will Eisner books.
I haven't read the Eisner one yet. Someone was just hounding me about, or not hounding me, telling me about that yesterday. But Scott McCloud, I did read. So the Will
Yeah.
Eisner is a must read.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got a couple on the visual medium. And yeah, just really just following their cues of things that they say in those books, which is great for an artist because they like when you don't drive them crazy.
Which is the most important one? Graphic storytelling and visual narrative, or comics and sequential art?
Man, I think they're both good, but if you just want to start with one, I would go with the first one,
Comics
the
and
graphic.
sequential art? Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
graphic storytelling. Wait, which
yeah.
one?
Oh,
Graphic
the graphic
storytelling?
story. Yeah, the graphic storytelling. Yeah, but I mean, I think both. I think would eventually benefit you in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when I'm gonna get them. My to read list is huge, but I am currently adding them to my cart, and then it'll just sit there for a bit,
Cool.
until I'm ready to pull the trigger on it. I
Yeah.
also do find reading comics in general, especially when you revisit comics you love, helps because you're like, oh, that's how and you
Mhm,
realize some things are simpler than you realized. You're like, oh man, and then you look at it and it's like, oh no, he just kind of like put the word on the page, and you just kind
mhm.
of drew the connection. It is great stuff. But what drove you to, or I guess going back, what drove you to film school? What drove you to start doing filmmaking?
Well, in high school, I was a theater kid. I was hanging out with those guys. And the head of the drama department, I mean, he saw that I had a natural inclination for like writing and storytelling. So, in high school, I was just writing a bunch of like stage plays that like my friends would then get up there and perform.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool to see people like, in the audience just like react to certain moments because we did this
Mm-hmm.
thing where like, we would all write a play and then somebody else in the class would direct it. So you were sort of like detached from it after you were done writing it. So, yeah, just from there, it just was kind of like, the next logical stepping point of like, okay, well, I don't really want to go into like, Broadway or anything like that. So the next thing is film school. So I went to Pace University, and they had a really at the time they were just like starting out with their film program. But yeah, it was there that I made like over like a dozen short films. Again, just like doing sort of the same thing I did in high school, where you just like you write a short film that's like 10 minutes or less, and got a bunch of friends to just run around the neighborhood while we were filming it, and then just putting it up on YouTube. Like that was all I did for 4 years.
Gotcha. That's really cool stuff. Do you have a YouTube channel or no?
Yeah, it's I haven't uploaded the since college, but yeah, I think it's a really long, wordy username. I think it's a
Oh,
little
okay.
difficult. I think it's a little difficult to find. But yeah,
Okay, good.
those are all still there. I'm sure.
Dope, man. Yeah, I mean, I used to make short films too. I still want to come back to it. I haven't given up, but it's just, I mean, making shorts is great. Obviously, we love the internet that you could finally post stuff now. Um, Now making money is the tough part. There's a lot of tough parts. I think another tough part is instant gratification, right?
Hmm.
And that's just detrimental to the artist. I think especially a fear with streaming, right, is that people will eventually they'll just want content now, and then they won't, because comics they'll spend. I could sit here for 5 hours and have 5 hours worth of content on a live show. If I
Hmm.
write for 5 hours, that's not 5 hours. That's not going to take someone 5 hours to read. That's not 5 hours worth of work, right?
Right. Hmm.
5 months worth of work on a comic is still not that. And so I think it's a tough balance for people to walk in the creative sphere. And I hope a lot of people don't get discouraged. But I have a feeling a lot of people will be led astray. And I think a lot of the true artists who are dedicated to the medium and the true fans will stick around. But
Yeah.
comics have a difficult curve, I find, also because you don't really. You mentioned the live reactions thing, which I
Hmm.
find really interesting, because that's the one drawback I think comics have. I could show a short film I made, or any, I mean, really a film I made in general, to people and get a reaction. Hell, even earlier I posted a reaction I had while playing a video game.
Hmm.
Comics, I mean, you could have one when you're reading in your room, but you can't. I could have friends over for a movie night. I can't have friends over for a comic night. What are we all gonna just sit around and that's one of the tough things. But again, there's so many reasons to love the medium. So you mentioned that you had like affinity for filmmaking that you discovered in high school, right? Because you were a
Right.
theater kid. So were you
Hmm.
into acting then?
No. There was they were very short of boys. So there was one time where I actually had to be in a play. And I did not. I didn't enjoy it. I did all. I honestly was like pretending the entire way. Once it was done, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to like building the sets with like all of the tech guys. Because that being behind the scenes was much more rewarding for me. And I think that's kind of why I kind of like writing, like being an actual writer, because it's kind of a behind the scenes thing. You're just the man behind the curtain, and
Right.
the art team, like they're the rock stars. They're the all the ones that are doing everything. So you're just building the engine in the Ferrari.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's I mean, I that's one of the things I like too. I do like acting, but I found like if it were a choice, I'm a writer because
Hmm.
I like building this story. Like yes, I like being in part of it, but
Hmm.
part of the reason I do like it is nice bringing other people's stories to life, but
Hmm.
let's be honest, like we want to, build something. You have an idea in our head and it's like getting it out there in a visual way
Hmm.
is I think probably what draws us to this medium. So were you into film before that? Like, did you watch movies a lot or?
Yeah, my dad was like this massive film buff. He had the cabinet just full of every VHS that you could think of. I was watching all the horror movies when I was like 12, 13, like stuff that was just giving me absolute nightmares. Um, and yeah, I think him always wanting to like take me to movies and always talk about movies and having like the film magazines around me. I think that's what really kind of pushed me into filmmaking.
Gotcha. So conversely, I've got to ask because you sounds like you're a movie fan. Well, I do want to ask while we're on this subject, what's your favorite movie, or do you have any favorite movies, any favorite directors? Like, what are your favorites?
Uh, well, I still love the original Matrix. That
Mm-hmm.
one, when I was like, I had to been like 10, 11 when I saw that. Like again, like my dad was like, he took me to a movie that I'm not supposed to see. And I love that idea of a story could be one thing and then just totally flip on a dime and be this totally other thing, and just using your expectations of reality. Like I'm watching this one type of movie about this guy who's a hacker, and then what, we're actually like in the future, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
um I really loved how you could just flip the story like that.
Oh yeah, subverting. Yeah. I mean that stuff. So did you know going into the movie what it was going to be about? Because I imagine the
No,
advertising. Oh, you didn't?
all yeah, like my dad knew everything about it. All I saw was when we were walking in, I saw the movie poster of Keanu Reeves, like just stand. I had no idea what I was about to watch.
And that's your favorite movie. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I've seen the first one. I've seen the second one. I have
Mm-mm.
not seen the third one. Or the
It's
fourth I heard was very bad.
yeah. Yeah.
Was it that
Yeah.
bad?
Yeah, it's more of a blatant cash grab. They try to hang a lantern on it, like, "Hey, we're making a movie that we're just blatantly trying to make a cash grab," and it's like, "Yeah, but you're still doing the thing. You're not
Oh, did they
subverting."
do the tongue in cheek thing?
Yeah, it's like, but you're not actually subverting it. You're just trying to explain it away for us.
Dude, I still need to see John Wick 4, but
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I've heard, I like the first three, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's annoying thing when they're like, haha, it's a cash grab. It's like you acknowledging it doesn't do
Yeah.
anything. It's or like they'll be like, yeah, this is kind of a trope we're doing,
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
and like
That's
tropes aren't inherently bad, but
no.
like
You
it's
have
just you gotta have a reason.
yeah.
You gotta do something with it.
Tropes are there to be subverted. And if someone's going to offer you a trope in a story and it's not subverted, you're just disappointed because you're like, oh, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be, and you're excited when you see a trope and it's subverted, and you go like, okay, well now I don't know where we're going.
See, I don't, because it depends on how you would define a trope, I guess, which
Hmm.
would be a whole different discussion. Because I think there's a problem too with people who try too hard to subvert
Hmm.
and end up creating just like a whole bunch of gotcha, 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 and then you just don't get anything of value.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think that shock value ultimately only lasts so long, right?
Right.
There's like I think, for example, I mean, I guess it depends. Like, okay, rescuing the princess, I would argue, is a trope. You didn't. I mean, I guess they did subvert it kind of when Leia's like a badass too, but they still
Hmm.
did the trope.
Hmm.
So, I guess it would depend. I don't know. I don't know if tropes have to be subverted, but I think you gotta. Really, honestly, it boils down to. I know it sounds simplistic, but just, I guess, just be good. Whether you follow the trope or not.
Yeah,
So,
you just have to have a good reason for it. I mean,
yeah,
subverting just for subversion's sake is not a good idea.
yeah.
It's not a good idea. But if you want to subvert and you have a very good reason for it, I think that's compelling.
Absolutely. So I'm really interested in hearing more about your process. My mic volume is low. Is that true? Is my mic volume low?
You're fine. I can hear you just fine.
All right. Let me know. Let me know if it's any better. I don't know what to. I thought it was fine. All right. Oh wait, no, that's just my headphone volume. That doesn't help. Okay. Is it still bad, Dave Brink? Let me know. Let me know. Okay. So I do want to ask also because now that we've talked about film a lot, obviously the same fundamentals still apply. Dave is gaslighting me. Uh, the same fundamentals still apply, but I am curious because you mentioned you brought into comic books. Now I know you mentioned your reasonings, your logical reasonings. I had that too, but
Mhm.
were you a fan of comic books?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The first thing I ever read, my mom got me the trade of the Death and Return of Superman.
Mm,
I didn't know anything about the storyline, and I was just absolutely hooked. I just loved the idea of all the different permutations of Superman and trying to figure out which one was good, which one was bad, which one was the real Clark, and then it building back to Clark coming out of the mech, with the long jet black hair. I just thought that was so cool. And the story just had this like such just epic scope to it. And you just really wanted to just spend so much time with that story. Yeah, that one really hooked me. And then from there, it was just like just finding a love of Batman. And every single trade that Batman has, like I have read all of them. I think the Batman, the Cult. I think that's probably my favorite one.
ooh, that's
Um,
been on my read. Both of those stories have been on my reading list for a while. Like,
yeah, because it's what I love about that story is that it's not Batman just fighting a bad guy, it's Batman fighting a whole ideology. And it's like,
mm,
can you defeat religion? Is basically like what that story is. And it's got a lot of like really cool like morbid art and stuff. So yeah, that if you haven't read that, I envy you for you reading it for the first time.
I've wanted to start a show. I've been putting it off because I'm just looking at my stuff that's occupying me every day. It's so much. But I would love to do shows just gushing about comics. And so if I ever do The Cult, if you ever want to do a discussion on that, like I
Yeah,
read it. All right. Well,
hell yeah,
I've been told that is. I mean, if you look at best Batman stories, that's consistently in. I mean, top 10 is really going to be the most predictable ones. You'll have Dark Knight Returns, Year One,
Killing Joke.
uh, Killing Joke. Those are like the basic three.
Hush is in there.
Hush. I'm looking at my shelf because I basically have all of them. That's when I was in middle school. I'd look up top 10 Batman stories or top 20, and
Long
we'll just kind of
Halloween.
pick from there. Long Halloween is next on my. What else is on there? Uh,
Any of the
Death in the
Gotham Central?
Family, but that's normally not in the top 10. That's just like important. What'd you say?
Did you read any of the Gotham Centrals?
Are those?
And
I've those are. It's about like the police department, right?
Yeah,
or no?
where Batman is not much a part of it. It's about the GCPD, and it's written by Ed Brubaker, so it's very noir.
I will make sure that's on my ever increasing watch list. Raid list. Sorry, I have all of them. I have games to play, movies to watch, uh, comics to read. Yeah, Gotham Central. All right. That's a strong recommendation from you then.
Very strong, yeah, especially if you were interested in a story that, like, doesn't feature Batman, but is still very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically like, how does the GCPD, like, handle the day-to-day without Batman? And Batman just comes in, like, just he's barely in it. He's just like a background character almost.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to check that one out. I haven't gotten to that yet, but when did that come out? That was I'm looking at it. Okay, 2002, 2006. Okay,
Mhm,
gotcha.
mhm.
That's dope. Yeah, I've been meaning to check that out. Was that affected by No Man's Land?
I don't I think maybe?
When did
I
No
don't know.
Man's Land end?
My recollection of it felt very self-contained. I don't know if it was affected by the events of No Man's Land.
Okay, was it? Yeah, I've been meaning to. I mean, there's so many things. Like, I want to dive into. Okay, that looks like No Man's Land looks like it was the 99, so it was before that. Okay. So No Man's Land and Nightfall are pretty close together. Wow,
Mhm.
what a rough time for Batman. Um, that's so cool. All right,
Yeah.
so those are some of your favorites, and so you were always a comic fan. Who's your favorite superhero?
I mean, Batman. That's
All right,
just
I
that.
assumed mine too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing: people say it's a basic answer, but it's like there's a reason. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, there
Well,
really is.
it's the discipline, it's the drive, it's the no matter what the circumstances are, there is a way out. There's something that you can figure out to get out of your situation. It's the resilience that he has. It's the idea that I think every any big dreamer has is this feeling of, like, your creativity, the thing that you want to create is almost like bigger than you. It just kind of comes. It's almost like this monster that comes from within. And I always think about that moment in The Dark Knight Returns where, where Alfred goes, Master Bruce, like, when did you shave? And he didn't realize that he had shaved, because that's like part of the it's like the Batman character just coming out of him.
Yeah, I always was confused by that but now I get it that it's just like it's an unconscious thing that
Hmm.
he doesn't even realize it. But yeah, that would confuse. That did. I mean, there's so many. The Dark Knight Returns is so good. I used to watch the animated movies before,
Hmm.
and I would just be like, oh, I've basically read the comic, and then I'm glad I finally got around to reading the comic because while I will say it is a fantastic adaptation, and it kind of highlighted that there's some things comics can do that movies can't, and some things movies can do that comics can't. Like there's
Hmm.
one of my favorite moments that I don't think is talked about much at all um in that book. I guess it's highlighted especially for me because I had seen the animated movies
Hmm.
so many times, seen the scene so many times, and I had never known that there was this depth to it that the comic has, where Superman takes on the nuke, and in the movie it's just he takes on the nuke. That's it.
Hmm.
He just gets nuked and you see him hurt. But in the comic you hear his monologue where he's crying out to Mother Earth like forgive humanity.
Hmm.
And because Superman's just kind of supposedly a dumb brute in this story, but I was like that sounded like Superman to me.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah, I like the Dark Knight Returns, the animated version. I think it's a good companion piece. But if you've seen one, you got to go read the book, and if you've read the book, you definitely got to go see the animated film. And you can't try to critique it by having the same experience, because they're meant to be two different experiences.
Absolutely. And I think in one strange case is the Batman Year One. I remember watching that movie and hating it.
Hmm.
And then I remember reading the comic and loving it. And then I remember watching the animated movie again and still not liking it, but going, wow, it actually is very accurate. It just, for some reason to me, it just didn't translate that well. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. If it was the monologuing just seemed more boring when it's
Well,
just people moving. I
in
don't know what
the
it
in the
was.
behind the scenes for The Dark Knight Returns, the animated, those guys, they talked about how they basically took the graphic novel and broke it down and rebuilt it to be like an animated feature film. Like
Hmm.
they were, they were trying to make sure that it had the correct pacing for an animated feature, that you weren't just copying and pasting the panels just for the sake of it. That if there was one panel of Joker, pulling the curtain on the late night show, there had to be extra lines and extra dialogue to kind of make it feel natural for an animated feature.
That's interesting. I'd have to watch that. I found that interesting too, is coming from my film brain and kind of realizing that what looks sounds good in film, like the repeat panels, like realizing that, oh, okay, because we look at it as almost like snapshot, 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 like, because that's what film is.
Hmm.
And you realize that that usually doesn't work in comics. It can, like, obviously there's that part in The Dark Knight Returns. It's a double page spread of
Hmm.
the, but even then, it's not. It doesn't feel natural, but it's that's supposed to feel unnatural. It's
Hmm.
just really interesting how many great things there are to do with the medium. But anyway, I could talk about that stuff with you forever. But
For
now
sure.
we're here. So you've decided to do comics, and your first one you did was on Kickstarter. It
Hmm.
was a sci-fi story because you're, I guess, a Matrix fan, or just sometimes the idea strikes, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Um,
Um, yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a cyberpunk comic about a virtual reality bounty hunter in the 22nd century. And it's a revenge story. It's basically like Kill Bill meets like Ready Player One. Is basically the two things you can combine it to. Yeah, we it was the first campaign that I ever raised. I was ever successfully funded on. And the process of making that comic was actually a huge learning curve for me, just in terms of like what to ask an artist, and what the limitations were, and thankfully I worked with an art team that was just very, very patient to tell me like, hey, you can give me these types of notes but not these types of notes, and everything will ultimately always be my interpretation. So if you give me a reference, like, I'm not gonna always make it like the actual reference. I'm gonna just always put my own spin on it, and always focusing. It helped me learn that when you're working with an artist, you're basically, like reinterpreting your idea through their art style, and being focused on the end result and not how you get there, is how you both come away satisfied with the story that you're making.
That's I'm just absorbing that because that's interesting. I've had, and not for any faults of my artist. I mean, he's great and super good with that. But it's interesting when I come up with something and it's not quite there, but sometimes it's better, and sometimes I don't know if it's better. It's
Hmm.
different, and I'm like, and sometimes, do you ever get that where you have to decide, do I have him change it to me, or and sometimes you see them changing it back to you, and you're like, no, 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 it was good.
Yeah, when I was making Reloader the first time, I think I was very, very precious with the vision. But as
Hmm.
time went on, I would start to kind of relinquish more and more control.
It
And
seems
I
to,
think it
yeah.
was, yeah, I think it was a really liberating experience for me. And I think it's part of the reason, why the next book that I made, Star Noir, was so good, because like all the lessons that I had learned from making Reloader, I applied to Star Noir.
That's why I was always afraid of making my first comic, and then because I'm like, this is the first impression I'll ever get. And I'm like, if my first comic is my best comic, I gotta hang it up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
but I'm feeling the same thing where I'm slowly kind of letting my artists. It's okay, just hacking away. And I realize that that's the eventual. When I talk to these industry professionals, that's kind of the eventual arc they all go on. Is they all kind of go, yeah, no. Like there's no way Chris Claremont could turn in a monthly issue of X Men while
Hmm.
giving heavy art stuff. In fact, artists have told me that. Like Bob McLeod was like, I'd be like, Chris, you wrote more than 60 pages of story here, and he'd be like, oh, it's all right. You can just cut some of it out, and be like, okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting. There's so many nuances, and people don't realize that comics are such a not just dynamic medium, but they're not just like the little brother to movies or like the just picture books. That they're so working in comics has made me, and seeing that I can't just do the film stuff I want in comics has actually deepened my love for comics and film.
Mhm. Well, Alan Moore, he has that book, Writing in Comics, which is another thing you should put on your list. That's
Yeah,
Alan
Amazon,
Moore.
help me out.
Alan Moore's Writing for Comics. That's the book. It's very short. You could read it in one sit down. It's very short. But one of the things he talks about is that when you try to like take a screenplay and just sort of cram it into a comics medium, you're kind of disrespecting the comics medium because the comics medium has its own tools, like page turns and splash pages and what's the relationship between the way the book starts and how it ends and what's the orientation of which you're reading that book. And though all of those tools, they really help you tell an immersive story. Whereas if you're just taking a screenplay and you're just breaking it up and you're not really considering all of the tools that you have available to you in the comics medium, you're really kind of doing the medium a disservice.
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you on that.
Mhm.
I think that, I mean, there's things that even Frank Miller has said this, that there's like, I think he says a quote, if you watch it's fast, even before I read his Daredevil run, I would watch this interview with him talking about his Daredevil run.
Mm.
And he would talk about how, I think there's one quote of him where he says something along the lines of, I came into the comics wanting to make them more cinematic. I stayed wanting to make them less so, which is really ironic considering that he became a movie guy, you
Mhm.
know, after deciding that comics have to be more different than movies, which I always find. But I guess a good story is a good story, right? And it resonates with people.
Yeah.
And that brings me to, well, first I want to ask, is there a way to get the last comic you did? Do you?
Well, what's funny about that comic is that this summer we are remaking that book.
Oh,
Yeah, the original art team that I had, basically life just pulled all of us apart, and then I went to go write other stuff, and then one of the things that I made was Star Noir, and then I got so sidetracked with Star Noir. And now a lot of time has passed since we had made that original first Reloader book. So this summer, we are going to remake the first book and actually do the second book, back to back. So like you'll be able to like get an original copy of the first book, and you'll get like the remade version of the first two issues. We're going to do a double issue.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All
Hmm.
right.
So that'll be
So,
exciting.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And will that all be crowdfunded? You got a website or?
That'll all be crowdfunded. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we usually do, after the campaigns are done, we usually go to the reason that we do Indiegogo is for the in-demand feature.
Right.
So we just do the kind of storefront thing. So whenever somebody happens to find one of the books, they can just get it, and then I'll pop it in the mail in a couple days.
Great. So is Star Noir book 2 done then?
We're over 3/4 of the way finished with the second book.
Nice.
It's coming together great. The original Kickstarter, it raised over 11K.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which was really fun, really exciting. Yeah, the readers of the first book, they just loved it. They're hooked into this murder mystery about this 1940s detective who teams up with this gray alien, and they're both trying to stop a shapeshifter who's killing Alan, the human detective, who's killing his fellow officers in Central Station, which is the pretty iconic police station from Los Angeles from back in the day. I mean, it still exists, but I mean, in
But
movie
it was
in
in, yeah.
in old movies and stuff, it was pretty it was the famous one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch this trailer real quick, and then I got more questions I want to ask you about that. Cause I'll be honest, like I had you on before I really looked at your stuff, and then I was like making the thumbnail, or like I occasionally glance and be like, "Wow, that's dope. That's a really cool premise."
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I'm gonna watch the trailer, and then we'll.
Welcome back, readers. When we last left Los Angeles, Alan Miller, our ex-detective, had nightmares about strange beings. He was tasked with finding out who killed Detective Patrick Perkins, the man whose heart had been removed. With no leads, Miller had a run-in with a UFO, who informed him that a shapeshifter knocked off Perkins. The kicker? The monster also hides within Central Police Station, alongside Alan's fellow officers. Alan deemed his experience utterly bonkers, until he found the UFO he encountered yapping to the captain. The detective barged in to let the alien have it, but instead found Alice Tate, his new partner. The stage is set. The hard-nosed detective and the eager rookie set off to find their elusive killer. In our next chapter, the two traverse 1940s Los Angeles, meeting UFOs hiding in plain sight as their mystery gets stranger by the day. Meanwhile, the shapeshifter remains at large, hunting down the other detectives of Central Station. Book 2 is penned by Mr. Tony James, a writer of sorts, a lover of old noir and science fiction. Returning with vigor are his 3 able-bodied artists, aces in their own field, much like our detective. And hot diggity dog, get a load of our new rewards. Many of them are exclusive to this very Kickstarter. Be sure to peruse the add-ons as well. Commemorate your purchase with these additional items. Don't be a fuddy-duddy. Back Star Noir today. It's the only way to defeat the communists.
That's the only way to defeat the communist. Dude, I could always tell, like always tell or not always, but often when I mean, obviously we had talked about it before, but I was like, this is the film guy made this.
Mm.
You could just tell there's like a stamp. I love. Was that you doing the voice?
Yeah, yeah, that's me in a full blown sweat as I'm trying to do that voice.
Oh man, people don't realize, like especially when you're reading something over and over again, how much energy. I've been doing this 49-page video essay, and it's
Mhm.
like when I get, because I'm excited the whole time you're writing it, but when it goes to reading it, you go, okay, hold on. Yeah, so I'm
Mm.
excited about the, and it's like, okay, for you have to just take those moments. So I imagine that 1 minute video took some time, right?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of takes, a lot of, oh, how about this version? What if we talk about like this? What if we say it like this? What if we say it like this? And then you just like when you're cutting it together, you're just kind of going like, all right, this sounds good. Oh, this sounds good. And yeah, it was a whole process.
Hmm.
But yeah, I like the way it turns out at the end, and people really dig it. They dig the trailer.
I dig it. I think it's great. Um, so we got book two is and this is how many pages? And how many pages was book one?
Book one was 42 pages. Book two is 46 pages, so it's a little bit longer. Yeah, so there are 6 books in this series. Yeah, cool.
JR, you
Thank
can
you.
check it out while it's live too. You could still listen to us. I'll put, the link should be in the. Is the link pinned in the chat, or did I mess that up? I think it should be pinned. It's definitely in the chat, but people shouldn't have to scroll up. They should just yeah, it's pinned. Okay,
Okay.
I did my job. Okay, cool.
Um, what's great is that having done the first book, on this very page, you can actually read the first 9 pages of the first book for free, like right there. Nudist Dardoir, you can read the first 9 pages, just by clicking the link. So if you're curious to just see, what all the fuss is about, yeah, right under the cover there, and you'll get taken. Yep, there you go. You can take,
That's
and that's the first
wow.
9 pages of book one. So you can kind of, it gives you a real good taste of what this world and what this murder mystery is like. Yeah, everyone that's read the first book, they're just like, I gotta see what the next book is. Like they're very, very hooked into it. In the second book, it gets even crazier. We really up the stakes. I mean, I'm sure as a screenwriter, I mean, that act one is probably one of the toughest ones because
Easily.
you're trying to hook the reader, but you can't really like show all your ace cards because all of that stuff happens in the middle of the story.
It's
So
that, and oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
no, no, go ahead.
It's that, and you have to like explain everything and set up everything without boring them. Like
Yeah,
making it seem like you're going, even though you're just like placing pieces, making it seem like you're actually just going. You
yeah,
know, I said this and I'll say it again. I spent more time. I've written the first. It was 11, but then I made the first issue triple size and I'm making the last issue double size. Maybe there'll be changes, but the first, let's say 8 issues of my comic, like equivalent to like 11 24-page issues, right?
mhm,
By far I spent the most time on issue one compared to all the others I'd say combined, and
mhm,
even within that I spent the most time on the first 20 pages because
yeah,
it's just, once you get the story going, it gets going.
yeah,
But
mhm.
and that's the same thing with starting a company, with building a fan base. Because I'm always frustrated. I'm like, why is it taking so long? And then other creatives are like, dude, this is normal. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I
yeah,
don't like it. You know,
yeah. I definitely feel that.
I mean, I pushed my launch date back 3 times or 2 times. Where
I've
I
definitely.
was gonna launch in I found a list from a few years ago saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
have issue 2022 saying, "Oh, have issue 4 or 5 out by the end of the year." And I'm like, "Bro, I didn't even have an artist yet. How did I think that was gonna happen?" It was like from January. I was so idealistic. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have 5 issues done by the end of the year." No, I didn't.
No, no.
No, no, I didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, thankfully, I think why people really like the first book is because I do find a good balance of setting up the world, but keeping you really engaged, and keeping the stakes pretty high. But book two is freed of all the setup, and so we really kind of swing for the fences. So if you're interested in jumping into reading it, I think the 2 tiers that you should really kind of look into, is the setup tier. It's called the setup, with the guy you pass it. It's a little bit
Yeah,
higher.
that's it.
Yeah,
The
right there.
setup.
Yeah, with the, yeah, that's the digital. If you want the physical, it's the one right below it. It's called the White Shoe Slang. And that's where you get, you're basically getting like almost 100 pages of story. So it's a really big bang for your buck. And then you don't have to like, because these books kind of take a bit to make. So like if you want to read both books this year, this is kind of like the way to get into it. Because once we start, production on the third book, we do the Kickstarter, and then we come back to do the Indiegogo, and then sometime over the summer of next year, people get to read the third book. So it's a little bit of a process to make, because there's just so much detail here. I mean, you can see from the pages that it's not a quick thing to draw by any means.
Oh my god, no! You realize like how much goes into simple things too when you really start seeing the thumbnail pages and the pencils and the inks and the color and the little flats color. I mean, I guess my artist just kind of, my colors just kind of gets the colors. This one I love a lot. I'm big into. Let me ask you this, because obviously there's the noir stuff I want to tackle. I love the use of the setting. I love the cat-like eyes. Dude, this gripped me. Just the aesthetics of this book alone. Like Star Noir is a great name. I love the look of this book. I love the feel of it.
Okay, thanks.
Wait, hang on. Did you show Double Indemnity?
Kickstarter. Be sure to peruse the add-ons as well as arcs. Aces in the Row, Central Station. Book 2 is
Double Indemnity, which was a movie I remember not really appreciating the first time. What was the noir ones you referenced?
I think it was Double Indemnity. I think that's the one that I.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh no, it was The Big Sleep. It was Big
I've
Sleep.
seen The Big Sleep too. We watched that for film school. But man, I mean, dude, I love the look of this book. I love the feel I'm getting from it.
Yeah.
I want to ask, you're into noir? Do you believe in aliens?
Well, one of the reasons why I made the book is because of one of my guilty pleasures is alien conspiracies. Like,
Me too.
yeah, I grew up watching the X-Files, a show that routinely horrified me as a kid. And yeah, I would, and as an adult, like spend a random Saturday just going down like a YouTube rabbit hole of like alien abduction stories and some of the things that you would say and what's the government hiding, and my imagination would just like run wild. And so I collected a bunch of those things, and that combined with just loving all of the movies from like the 1940s. So, the fast cadence of the dialogue, like all of the slang, the cars, the three-piece suits, and Star Noir just allowed me to combine those two ideas.
Love it. I love it. I'm into that too. I totally believe in a, and I don't think it's guilty pleasure at all. To my detriment, I am an adamant, firm believer that aliens have been to Earth, and that the government is hiding them. And do I get stares for saying that? Yeah, but you know what? It's true. So what can I say? Setting this alien, having an alien in this suit on the cover is again really striking. And overall, I mean, again, all of this just looks fascinating. Seeing because I've had a lot of people. I always ask this. I've had multiple people come on with alien-related books, and I ask them. I think, yeah, even just a few episodes I did. I'm always asking them if they believe, and most of them don't or aren't into the conspiracies. And I'm like, come on, guys. Now, I'm not saying you have to believe in it.
Yeah.
Like you can write about anything. I don't believe in. You don't have to believe in everything to write about it, but it is nice to see someone who's into that.
Oh yeah, I'm super into it. I mean, what I wanted to do with all of the alien encounters that you see in this series is try to give them as best as possible a very weighted and believable feel to it. And a lot of that comes from all of those alien conspiracy, those abduction stories, and just even in the first book, like the way that Alan, our main character, meets the gray alien in his backyard for the first time. there's things in there like the humming of the ship and the frozen grass and the way that the gray alien floats out of him, like floats towards him like a ghost. All that came from hearing alien abduction stories. These are some of the things people would say, and just kind of finding a creative way to work them into the story. So it just felt scary every time you met an alien.
Absolutely. I know I'm in agreement with that. The alien stuff. Yeah, I've wanted to do that too, where it's like the realistic encounters, because there's obviously like the Jack Kirby or there's different ways to do aliens in comics, and to see them done in a realistic way adds credence to it, right?
Mhm.
Like it's a Close Encounters, is a very different movie from, say, I don't know, Predator.
Mhm.
Why'd I go to Predator? I don't
Well,
know.
that's an alien encounter for sure.
It is. But you know what I mean? There's like different ways of going about it. Do you have any favorite alien movies?
Uh, hmm, alien movies. I mean, there was the one. What was the sign language one? Arrival.
I wasn't. You like that one?
I kind of like it as more of just of a thinky piece.
Hmm.
It's not really flashy. But I kind of liked it as a thinky piece. That one was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I love all the classic ones like Alien, Predator. I mean, the fun ones where it's
E.T.
it, it's big 80s muscly men trying to take down an
Oh
extraterrestrial.
yeah, of course. It's an unbeatable formula. It's an
Yeah. Mhm.
unbeatable formula. Um, yeah, I mean those were great. Yeah, obviously Aliens.
Uh,
I have an Aliens poster right there on my
nice,
wall. Oh wait, yeah,
nice.
you can barely see it because it's being blocked. But yeah, I have that. I
Um,
mean, I'm a big Aliens guy.
I would say like the X Files is probably one of the big influences for me, just because I don't know. It was just, I mean, it seems a little silly now when you kind of go back to watch those episodes, but at the time, it felt so scary. It just felt so real and so like almost well researched that it was just like a different depiction of aliens. It didn't feel campy. It was chilling every time it happened. And I definitely try to recreate that in Star Noir.
Yeah, I've only seen the first episode. X File, again, watch list. I don't spend enough time absorbing in my interests anymore.
Hmm.
And I need to do that more. But yeah, I mean, X Files is up there with my stuff to get into.
Hmm.
Because
Well,
I
it's
think
very.
people forget it's harder to come up with new ideas when I'm not, indulging. I mean, I get so many ideas from watching stuff, or even in the news. I mean, the alien stuff, dude. I'd love to do an alien piece. Finding alien stuff and doing alien stuff in fiction is tough because it's like half the mystery is like hearing these accounts, and so I imagine you struggle with that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, because when you're kind of doing this noir setting, what I didn't want to have happen was for the alien sci-fi components to just push the 1940s aspect just out of the way the second aliens show up. So the challenge is not only how do we take these alien conspiracies and these abduction stories and try to work them into the story, but how do we do it in a way that it keeps it married and believable to this 1940s setting.
Uh, yeah, I mean that's something, and I was wondering about that too because I know they're wait 1940s. Is this pre or post or during?
This is
Uh,
this is
or is it
post.
not?
This is
Or is
night
it
is
peak?
it's 1947.
1947. Okay.
Mhm.
This is pre Roswell, right?
This is actually the first book actually gives a mention to Roswell. This is a few months after that.
Wait, when did I thought Roswell was
It,
51?
it was in the summer of 47.
Okay, I'm totally. Why did I think it was the 50s? Okay, 47. That's dope. It's
Mhm.
so Roswell has happened. That's all right because I know you know your history now. With all this, has Tony seen any Kolchak the Night Stalker? I had just to look that up while we were talking because I had never heard. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of that.
Let me
Yeah.
pull this up because I
Yeah.
hadn't either. Kolchak the Night Stalker is so it's a TV series. It looks like okay. So
Oh,
it's
this
like
this is cool. This is definitely up my alley.
yeah, this is what I'm curious. Right, so let's see. Is a Chicago newspaper, or he's a reporter for the Chicago newspaper, the more accident than design, he ends up investigating homicides, many of which involve supernatural forces. Unfortunately, rather than reporting on the crimes, he solves them. That is such a cool setup.
Yeah, I love
God
that.
damn it! Now I have to add another thing to my watch list. I'm
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, I definitely want to check this out. This looks cool.
Man, that would be a fun one to discuss. Kolchak. We could
Yeah.
get like a cult following of the series. We could pretend we've always been fans. No, I'm kidding. We don't have to pretend we've always been fans of it. That's cool, man. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that one. All right, that sounds inspired. The X-Files. That's another one I got to get through. 10 seasons. Good lord.
Yeah. Well worth it. Great
Yeah.
show.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't
Mm.
doubt that any of this is. Oh, Chinatown, LA Confidential. Yeah, what are your favorite noir stories?
Well, those two are big. The Big Sleep, I really love. Just because the dialogue in that movie is just so great. I mean, if you know, as a writer, you know, looking at great dialogue, I mean, that's a great example. Just the way that they use metaphorical language to kind of reveal character. I mean, you know, Lauren Bacall has a scene with Humphrey Bogart, and they're revealing character through the metaphor of horse racing, and I really love that. I just watched the Blue Dahlia. That one's cool. That one's very like, you know, that's got like a murder mystery going on, but very slow burn.
Is it
Um,
inspired by the Black Dahlia?
no, those are actually two different things. The Blue Dahlia is the name of the hotel in that movie. That one's really good. Highly recommend. There's one called Detour, which you should definitely watch. That one's really fun. This guy just goes. He wants to go see his girlfriend out in Los Angeles. He meets up with this guy who you know, lends his car to him. He ends up kicking the bucket. And he doesn't want to get pinned for the guy's death, so he takes his car and assumes his identity, and a whole bunch of tension ensues for the rest of the movie. So that's really funny, and that has like the funny stuff like of like overacting and just kind of hilarious one-liners. That yeah, so that's very entertaining. But yeah, I do love the classics. You know, Chinatown is amazing. The Big Sleep is amazing. Even books like the James Elroy series, like the Big Nowhere, I think is one
Damn,
of
you
my
really absorbed all of it.
yeah, the Big Nowhere is of that series. It's part of the LA Confidential series. That one's my favorite. It has such a big scope for 1940s Los Angeles. You feel like you're not just with detectives, but you know, you get to kind of see the whole lay of the land. Actors, criminals. Yeah, you get to really meet everybody.
That's all right. How do you find as a creative? Because I've been struggling with this for the past couple of years. I used to and find more time to absorb entertainment,
Mhm.
and I feel like I never do anymore. How do you find the time in the day between promoting and creating?
Just trying to find an hour somewhere there's an hour somewhere in your day that you either have like when you wake up or when you're going to bed, or just there's an hour at some point that you have free, and right there, that's when I try to chip away at something. Either read a book that is in the genre I'm trying to write in, or a movie that I really want to watch, or a TV show. Every day, just finding 1 hour somewhere.
Gotcha. And when it comes to writing too, how often do you write? Because I used to write way more than I do now. It's embarrassing how little I write now because now I'm always like doing production stuff. It doesn't seem like a lot. It's hard to, it really, if I were to break it down, it feels like I've done nothing, but I literally have a checklist proving I've been doing stuff today.
Yeah, I tend to write in binges. There are just periods where I'm like not writing at all, because I'm like making the book, or I'm like researching what I want to do for the next story that I want to write. But when I'm actually writing, it's like full commitment, 8 hours every single day. Like, let's get the whole story done. Let's workshop it. And then once I've got a really solid foundation, and I'm just really debating like this line or this line, and there's really no structural flaws in the story, then I put it in a drawer, and then I go work on something else.
Gotcha. All right, I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to keep an eye on that. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that strategy.
Mhm.
Learning new stuff and applying it though is always the tough part. But this, I mean, this book looks great. Oh, so you're from Queens? I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, shout
Are
out.
you still there?
I know. I grew up in Woodbridge.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You still in Queens?
Yes, sir. Astoria. It's where Spider-Man lives.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
Uh, everyone make sure to check this. We're so close to hitting that goal.
Yeah.
So I know it's 20 for the digital. Is it a PDF or like what's
Yeah, it's two PDFs for books 1 and 2. But what's good about the digital is that as soon as the campaign closes, I will email everybody the digital copy of the first book, so you don't have to wait very long. But if you're very adamant about getting the physical here, if you want to get the
Oh,
physical,
let me see it. Sorry.
oh, sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, if you want to read the physical, both books, those get mailed to you in a nice, comfy Gemini mailer, all safe and pristine. And yeah, you get to read all of it. And since we're 3/4 of the way through making the second book, I mean, you guys, you'll all have read it like over the summer, basically.
That's what I'm going for too. Same
Yeah,
similar time frame.
yeah.
I'm yeah, this book looks and sounds great. I have to read all the crowdfunded books. I'm gonna make myself do it because I keep backing and I used to just read them right away. I prioritize them generally over other comics. Um, because I think a lot of people back and then don't read, and I think while that's nice, look, money is money, right?
Hmm.
I with all the time I spend writing, I want to make sure that I'm not just getting I don't like that people genuinely want to read what I have to say. And I this is definitely something I want to read. So again, guys, whether you're watching it live now or later on, definitely check this book out. I mean, it looks incredible to me.
Thank you.
We're so close to hitting this goal, and whether you want it physical or digital, definitely make sure you get it. And it looks like you get your name in the thank you section if you just do $10. So, Naked City. Wait, what's this?
Oh,
Postcard.
so the lady on the cover there with the cat eyes, her name is Stella Belafonte, and she is a lounge singer at this place called the Dragon Room, which our main characters do an interview with her in the second book, and we decided it would be kind of fun if we did like a 1940s like sexy pinup. So I think
We
if
got to do
you
it.
I think if you scroll down a bit, you can actually see the whole thing.
What is
Um,
this? Black and white poster of the two. I like the cover too. It really does feel like a movie poster.
oh yeah, there it
Uh
is, right under the yeah, yep, there it is.
oh, it's
Yeah, so that
different
was in
from. Oh no, it's the same. Wow,
yeah.
that's so cool. I love how you really lean into the aesthetics of this. It's
Um, yeah. So what's cool about the poster, the poster is actually inspired by the movie poster, the Maltese Falcon. Like if you look at the Maltese Falcon movie poster,
did I really not see this?
you immediately will see the influence. There's one where there's the bird is the silhouette.
Hold on. All right, let me get this. Give me a second. All right. Keep that visual in mind, guys. Those of you watching live, or I guess it doesn't matter if you're watching live. I don't know why I said that. Okay, which one?
Uh, um, hold on. Hold on. I gotta Google it myself. Wait, hold on. Maltese Falcon movie poster. Oh, I can't. Wow, I don't know where it is now. Yeah, it was like the DVD cover of like one of the movie posters. But yeah, it's 100% like because I gave the artist like the cover of it, and I was like, hey, I want to just do this thing where we instead of the bird, let's just do the alien. Which is crazy. I'm totally gonna find this like after the stream.
Okay, yeah. Please let me know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely the post. It's definitely one of the posters for sure.
Okay, no, I believe you.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it, but we'll find it. Wait, he says I know exactly what you're talking about. Says Jr.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool. Right
well,
on.
I'm glad to know. Um, So, everyone make sure to check out this book. At least consider it. We have 4 days left, so time is of the essence. We want this man to hit his goal, if you can't back it, share it around on whatever socials. If you know anyone that you think would be into this, definitely check it out. Would you ever consider turning this into a movie?
What's funny, the readers of this book series so far, they always just tell me, when's the Netflix show? When's the Amazon Prime show? And I just go, oh well, one step at a time. Like let's make a really kick-ass comic book, and then I promise there'll be a live action adaptation before you know it.
Yeah, you have to create a great comic book before you think of anything else. So and that's what it looks like. That's what you're doing. I mean, even though I hadn't read it yet, just based on the pages, I mean, the storytelling is great. Every panel is dynamic.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
excited. This book looks great, and it sounds like definitely something worth checking out. So
for sure.
everyone, make sure to sign up. I'm so used to saying sign up because and then I know when I launch my campaign, I'm gonna be still saying sign up instead of back. Make
Yeah.
sure to back this book. It should be coming around soon. It's mostly done. It's a fast turnaround. We're a fan of that. So definitely check it out. Support a fellow writer here.
Thank you.
It's been great getting to know you. I'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah. Anything else you want to say before we head out? Anything else you want to show?
Yeah, the book is great. You'll enjoy it. Definitely check out the 9-page preview if you want to kind of just get a really free taste of what it's like. And yeah, I everyone who's read the first book just has nothing but glowing things to say. They love how immersive it is and how, for 42 pages, they feel like it moves really fast.
I'm definitely interested in checking this one out.
Mhm.
So make sure you guys do too. And with that being said, I'll be seeing you guys soon. I might be streaming again tonight, doing some gaming streaming. We'll be seeing. But keep an eye on my stuff. And as we're heading out, guys, again, keep an eye on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. I got more guests coming. I'm about to have my 60th episode. So make sure to check that out. It's going to be promoting a comic that I'm editing. And without further ado, I'm going to close out with the trailer for my upcoming comic book and send the link in the chat for it one last time. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.
Someone says, "What's the future?" Vaughn.
Intro. That is my intro. When the whole world was dragged into World War III, brave men like my father fought on the front lines. And they weren't alone. That was 20 years ago. Now it's up to us to carry on their legacy. And every so often, the earth from which we come gives way for something new, something greater to be born. And with them, even greater threats to face. Bring it on! Phenomenal. For you, Dad. For you.